It is a very interesting time regarding horror games, as we are now seeing a massive resurgence of classic and yet even new titles that will allow fans to relive the horror of classics, but also to bring new ideas to the forefront with more inventive ways in which to scare people, while also combining elements of both new and old to give players more choices in how they interact with the experience. This new entry in the genre, known as Connection: The Nightmare Within, is inspired by classics such as Resident Evil, Silent Hill and Alone in the Dark, that sees you play as a detective investigating somewhat of a shadow conspiracy. And not to give too many spoilers away, but unfortunately we have to some degree, you are tasked with being hooked up to some sort of contraption that allows you to venture into the mind of a psychotic terrorist to look for clues and answers as to the whereabouts or upcoming events regarding a certain plot that could cause widespread panic and danger throughout the world if not taken care of. So deep within the realms of the antagonist's mind, you will find the answers, but not before you are met with some horrific entities that will stop at nothing to block you from reaching the truth. And once you venture into the mind of the antagonist, essentially you now become the virus. And what the mind has done is set up a system in order to protect itself. So you'll be met with many hideous abominations and creatures that see you as the threat, and their goal is to eradicate you and to destroy you at all costs. It's a very interesting take on this type of genre. While we have seen many ideas in the past, this is something different, although I do think that it still needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, because from playing the game, with the ideas that are available, you can play from both modern and classic survival horror perspectives, with the over-the-shoulder style that's seen in more modern Resident Evil remakes, and then you can also play with the classic fixed camera style that will also allow you to use tank controls. So that is an interesting feature, and it also does give you the preferred way to play in your own style. Now, I've spent time playing this recently. We're recording footage for this video, and I played the game in both different styles. And while it is decent to begin with, again, just be mindful that this is a work in progress game. The demo is currently available on Steam, which there'll be a link for in the description. But there is some elements that I find that could be improved on. I found the fixed cameras and the tank controls, funnily enough, to work better and to be more interactive and, how would you put it, reactive. They just seem to work better. The over-the-shoulder aspect, while they do work okay, I found it to be quite sluggish, and you will have to change the look sensitivity, especially if you're using a controller, in the game options menu to get the most out of it. But I find that even with certain features with the likes of the run mechanics and so forth, you'll be running for a while and then it'll quickly stop, which can leave you open to attack, especially if you're trying to escape from attacks and other types of monsters. And it can just feel quite clunky and just overall sluggish, which can definitely hamper the experience. And no more so with the bonus game mode that's available also in the demo, which this demo does keep giving you a lot more, which is crazy to think of the amount of content that's here. You have a bonus element where you are tasked with trying to destroy certain growth spots using timed bombs, and once you place a bomb, you then have to defeat waves of enemies that will try to destroy it before it blows up. But this is where the game can get a bit tricky, because the clunky controls, especially with the over-the-shoulder perspective, enemies can literally appear as soon as you turn the camera and turn it back. Off screen, enemies will just appear at random and spawn wherever, and it leaves you totally open to attack. So loads of enemies can literally just go crazy, just attacking you like mad. and it doesn't leave you with an awful lot really to get out of the situation. Plus, with the weapons that you have at your disposal, which you do have access to your typical pistols, shotguns, even assault rifles or machine guns, and even like a grenade launcher, but you find, especially with the over the shoulder view, that the impact of each hit from the weapons doesn't have the same effect, and sometimes has no effect. Now I know, again, it's still something that needs to be worked on, and I hope that it will be when the full game is released, but it's minor glitches like that that do make the experience a lot more difficult to play, especially when things start to ramp up and you have a lot more enemies to deal with in a certain time frame, like I said, when they're spawning at different points or just randomly. No sooner do you turn your back to something and you turn away, there's an enemy attacking you from behind that literally wasn't there not even a second before, and before you know it, and before you've had time to react to the situation, 2 or 3 hits and you're dead anyway, which will cause a lot of restarts, forcing you to play the game again. So if there was any issues with it, I would say that the control systems, especially on the over the shoulder perspective, needs a little bit of tweaking and refinement to make it worthwhile. But aside from that, I genuinely think that this is an interesting look into this type of concept, and I think it will be an interesting game upon its release, as it mixes so many different styles. But it's very dark, it's very atmospheric. There is points in the game where you'll find that there is a few jump scares to be had, and it definitely will make you jump off the seat, let's just put it that way. You won't expect it. But for what it is, I think it's definitely interesting, and I definitely recommend that you at least try it, especially if you're a fan of these style of games. Whether you like the new over-the-shoulder style of modern survival horror games or you like the classic style, this game presents both. So that in itself is more than enough reason to give it a try. The story is interesting, although it can be difficult to understand in the beginning, but I do think it's a different spin on things and definitely offers up something different that we wouldn't have seen before. And what's even more interesting is the fact is that when you dive into the mind of another person, it shows you the darkness that lies within, that people can put up barriers, and there's all sorts of madness that goes on within the mind. So you'll get to see that in full detail in this game. But yeah, very dark and atmospheric experience. I don't see why you shouldn't give it a try. Again, there's a link down below in the description to download the demo over on Steam, so definitely give it a try. But in the meantime, if you are interested in looking at more types of games like this with interesting concepts that mix both new and old that you might also be interested in, this next video will dive deeper into those concepts to give you more ways to be frightened.